Hello, good evening. It's Joyful Christian Hermit. I found this conference by St. John Cassian. He's a founder of monasteries, but a great writer, um, late 4th century, early 5th. Um, yeah, well, really more early 5th. But this is one of his conferences that I like. He has a book of them. They're called conferences. This is what he says. And this made sense to me today. I really enjoy it, so I'm sharing it with you. We see some people who disdain very great riches in this world, and not only large sums of gold and silver, but also magnificent properties, being disturbed over a penknife, a stylus, a needle, or a pen. And when they have given away all their wealth for the sake of Christ's love, but still retain the heart's old affection for the littlest things, and are always quickly irritated because of them, they become in every respect fruitless and barren, like those who do not have the love of which the apostle speaks. Foreseeing this in the Spirit, the blessed apostle, the apostle John, said, "If I gave all my goods to feed the poor and handed my body over to be burned, but I did not have love, it would profit me nothing." Oh, no, they're talking about St. Paul. "It would profit me nothing." That's from 1 Corinthians 13:3. Hence, it is clearly proved that perfection is not immediately arrived at by being stripped and deprived of all one's wealth, or by giving up one's honors, unless there is that love whose elements the apostle describes, which consists in purity of heart alone. For what else does it mean not to be envious, not to be boastful, not to be angry, not to do evil, not to seek the things that are one's own, not to rejoice over iniquity, not to think evil, and all the rest? If not always to offer God a perfect and utterly clean heart, and to keep it unsullied by any passion. For the sake of this, then, everything is to be done and desired. In other words, everything is to be done and desired according to the sake of love of God. Always to offer God a perfect and utterly clean heart, and to keep it unsullied by any passion. Do not do evil, do not be angry, not be boastful, not be envious, not to seek the things that are one's own, not to rejoice over iniquity, not to think evil, and all the rest. So some of these are what perfection is, and divine union with God, divine perfection. As he says here above, John Cassian says this, "And when they have given away all their wealth for the sake of Christ's love, but still retain the heart's old affection for the littlest things, and are always quickly irritated because of them, they become in every respect fruitless and barren, like those who do not have the love of which St. Paul speaks." So with that, I'm reminded of what God told me today. Give what I favored. Give what means a lot to me was that little tree, that I had that I knew this other person would like. I had other things that he would have, that someone else would have liked, like this lovely statue, or this beautiful shrine here of Psalm 42, or many of my books, or other statues. See, a devout Catholic would love these items, and God would have said, give them your reliquary with the chip of St. John Nepomucene's bone in it or something. A priceless treasure. It doesn't have the authenticity papers. That's why I was given it. Otherwise, it would be in a parish somewhere. Somehow the papers had gotten lost when a monastery was disbanded, and the monks didn't take with them anything that was there. They just left. So that's sad, isn't it? But I'm taking good care of it here. And at some point there will be someone that the Lord will say, give that reliquary with the first class relic to so and so, or to this parish, some parish, and even though it doesn't have certification, they could put a little sign explaining, had been in a monastery, and I could even say which one and where and why it was disbanded at the time. So, yeah, it's detachment, and the coming to purity of love is a process of many facets that we must grow and let go of things, ponder them and realize, and then God will give us little practice sessions to see, will she do it? Will she give that? Which was her latest prize acquisition. One of a kind. I've never seen it in my living years, and I've never seen it at this nursery either, or at any nursery. But when it was, I realized it doesn't matter, and it doesn't. I'm feeling like, well, that it was easier than I'd sort of built up ahead of time. Like, am I sure I'm going to do this? So I had a little spot that it would grow in, and it was very easy. And the joy in his neighbor's face was, and he appreciated. He goes to a non-denominational church, a Christian church, and he said, that's really special what you did. And I thought, thank you, God, for suggesting that to me. It had been a thought even before yesterday. It was subtle, little hints he was dropping. See if I'd pick up on it. And I decided I'm going to act on that. I know that was God telling me, and you can't resist God. And it was quite easy to, of course, I have an advantage. Just 10 weeks ago, was nearly dead. So it puts a different perspective on things. And I was a little rusty from having actually died in 1987. So this was another little big reminder, that temporal things mean really nothing other than to enjoy and praise God for them. And that's what the elderly woman, more elder than me, I'm an elderly woman, but she's 13 years my senior, doesn't understand, because she's visualizing every day. She's sort of shifted away from the church, and she's dabbling in other things, and it comes through even in her vocabulary that she's visualizing me having the house finished and staying in it and enjoying the fruits of my labor. And this is just recently she sent me that text, and I realized she doesn't understand. I'm called to a different standard. Well, we all are called to this standard, but hermits definitely. I'm to be more detached. And I recognized I wasn't going to keep this place anyway. so she can visualize me in this house. But unless I die and my soul is hovering around here, which it won't be, I mean, if called upon, if my daughter's in here and she calls to me, I would be there for her, or her fiance or something, because they're going to live in here, unless something unusual happens to them, or they decide to do something else or don't want it. But it's, she used the word visualize instead of praying. Uh, and visualizing is a way to pray, but we shouldn't be stopping our language of our faith. But she made comments when she was helping get all my books off the shelves uh, about Catholicism and negative. So I've known, because she's very enamored. One of her daughters is very into New Age and into other philosophies. They're not even really religions. Buddhism is one of them. She's into it. Others, and I'm open-minded, but there's certain things that I don't cross the line. I don't cross the line out of Christianity. God warned me about that years ago. So, but her visualizing isn't going to happen. Because I wasn't going, even if my daughter decides she doesn't want this, I'll sell it when I'm done then. So, by spring, sell it in the spring. I'm aiming for Christmas time. That might be unrealistic. I still have lots. I mean, Brian and my daughter was here, and Brian was being very negative then about how much is left to do and every room. But this isn't finished. It really bothered him that I didn't just do all one room and have it finished. He said, you'd be so happy. It would be so happy to see something finished. And I said, I don't need to see that. I said, I can wait till the end. And to see the whole thing finished is fine with me. But I don't find it efficient to be getting out all my tools and to keep switching, to do all this room, for example, all of the trim and the flooring and the painting, and that's been about it with this room. But I mean, it's a lot. I had to paint the ceiling 4 times because something up that had been put up there before kept absorbing the paint oddly. So I was about ready to prime it, but I went and got a higher quality, very high quality. Paid a lot more for a different quality of paint, a ceiling paint. I just used the regular in the other rooms, no problem. But this was a bear to paint. So that worked finally. But no, and to do the doors, the door handle, all this, I'd rather work in types of material or tasks, like do all the tiling. And then since you're not just tiling all day long, then start painting the trim. All that has to be done. And then, you can't paint all of the trim at once. I only have so many sawhorses, an area to put the boards on, and it's 16-hour dry time. So, it's just a slower process. I do by task. Then I'm not having to get out different tools all the time and switch gears. And so that to me is in a more efficient way. And then I'll do all the grouting at once. If I'm very tired of dealing with tile, I'll wait to grout. There's no rush. I have plenty of other tasks. I could turn to all trim work then, or mostly trim, installing it. And then do all the grouting another time, but all of it at one time. Well, I'm mixing the stuff and have it. And see, it's just different ways of doing things. But these other people can't see that. And it's amusing in a way for me to see that they are so involved. He hadn't ever been in my home before, but they knew I was still working on it. They could tell, I suppose, by the things I'd bring home in my truck, and I was still working on it. And it's bothering the neighbors. They want things done fast, even though they know I have this this pain and stuff. So, what is our true wealth? What is our true reason for being here? Is it to do things a certain way, or to have things finished under a certain timeline? Especially when you're retired and you're the only one living in here, other than the dogs. They haven't complained to me that it's not finished. So it's to work on these other things, these other aspects. I shared with Brian today my 9 S's. I don't think it made any impression, but, offer God a perfect and utterly clean heart. Keep it unsullied by any passion. Don't rejoice over sin. Don't think evil and all the rest that goes with evil. Negativity. Don't be negative and think, oh, this is not going to work well. Oh, this cutting tile isn't precise. Yes, it is. That's why I got a precise saw. It can be precise. Don't be envious. Don't be boastful. Don't be angry. Don't do evil. Don't seek the things that are one's own. Don't rejoice over iniquity. Think evil. All that goes with that. Always offer God a perfect and utterly clean heart. Keep it unsullied by passions. Passions can get to us. Says here, hence it is clearly proved that perfection is not immediately arrived at by being stripped and deprived of all one's wealth, or by giving up one's honors, unless there is that love whose elements the apostle describes, which consists in purity of heart alone. So, had I not had a good heart and a very good feeling and a joy in giving away white sparkler and delighted in knowing that Brian would just love it, then I would be giving it away under the wrong, or if I was giving it away expecting some kind of praise or honor, then no. And it's like writing something even, we just sort of have to let God do it. I mean, we can, of course, writers do it all the time. They get interviewed and stuff about their book that's out. That's all to be expected. That's what writers do. It's part of them, their craft and their careers as writers. But if it's involving something of holiness, of divine providence, and including that, God will find the people to promote then and to interview the writer. And but it should nothing that we do should be contrived but on our part. God will have things flow. The doors will open. Every time in my life I've tried pushing on something or had expectations, God always shows me no. And I thought of that again today. It's God's time. It's not mine. So sharing in these videos is up to God. He's the one that gives me time or not time. And it's His choosing. Doesn't matter if there's one person or no people, or 5 people, or 100 or 200 or 300 views. Doesn't matter. And I slid. I slid away from the holy narrow pathway just with my mindset, as if the time was mine to decide what to do with. Well, it is. I mean, he does give us the responsibility to use our time well. But it's up to me then to make the videos more worthwhile and not just going on and on about myself. So, or some issue that I'm paranoid about or something, because I still have septic shock, but it's a flaw anyway. Or am I saying negative about others when it's not even a teaching point, or it just stuck in my mind, made an impression? Wow. I mean, and that was a great example of, just how starting a task with a negative outlook is not the path of success generally. So it was a good lesson, but I didn't need it to spread that or to say who with someone else who is calm and patient and happy enough to help. And he didn't know he was getting anything at all. In fact, I'd offered him the last time he came over, even money. I don't want anything. He says, I should be able to help you now and then for nothing. And that was Sean's attitude always, too, which was very loving and kind. They're both Christians and living it. So, well, I'm grateful to John Cassian for his writings, and because, we can give things away with the wrong heart, or we can do it with the right heart and then ruin it by overdoing it, with our thinking, oh my goodness, I'm just so great. The best part to be grateful about is if we obeyed God's voice, did what he said, or if we somehow thought it up on our own. Wouldn't that be great? And we don't know for sure, but I think I was sure it was God suggesting it, reminding me that my neighbor had seen that and loved it and asked about it and would like one, he said, but they don't have any more. Never seen one before, even. It was a fluke. It was a gift from God, because God is timeless, and he knew I would need help with these tiles and had that gift there ready for him. So that's how that happened. Way back. Even arranged for it to be in the greenhouse so that knowing I would be there to see it and get it, knowing how rare and special it was, at least from my experience, haven't ever seen one, knowing that in advance, later on, I would need lifting help. Oh, see, God has the whole spectrum in his heart, mind, soul, in his whole being. God's ineffable essence, spirit, knows and does. He's involved miraculously so in the details of our lives, and we are still trying, but it's like John Cassian says, it's a long way. It takes a long time to learn so much and of the holy narrow pathway of perfection, divine perfection. And most of it, we can learn as much as we can here on earth, but most of us will still be learning when we are off this earth and go through a progression. On the other side, heaven, you can call it heaven, or because there's probably I was in an anteroom. I consider probably an anteroom to heaven, or of part of heaven, where all of us will be who are still progressing. If there's that's probably too simplistic also. It's just so huge, immense. It's endless. So it's not like it's a building with the basement has us who have to work our way up. But in essence, there will be a sense of that and a reality of that, of us progressing. And then others who are very evolved and have climbed the stairway to heaven in their lives will quickly be in the heaven. The union with God, that's heaven. The union with God that provides the other to be totally loving, our new selves, to be pure love. Well, enough of my rambling on about these things. Thank you to John Cassian, St. John Cassian and his writings. That's another book I would like to spend more time with when I'm no longer doing renovation, which can happen sooner or later. I'm going to keep listening for God, and in the meantime, putting in a little more work and focus and energy on finishing. Keep working at it. And I just go to, if I can't do one thing, I always have something else to do. So that's my style of doing this. And it was the same with the island farmhouse. And before, it just is my way. And I'm sure maybe some other people have it that way. And I don't need to see something finished to keep going. But I would tell you, I was very happy today. On Sunday, I thought how fitting to have the last row of tiles go in. So that was the most challenging tile job I have ever done. These large-scale tiles, it was tricky for me anyway. And getting the right saw finally and all of that. So thank you, Lord, for all the help. And thank you to all the tile masons and St. Joseph, who also worked with stone. So grateful for all the prayers and the help and your heavenly presence. And God in me always. And He's in you too. We mustn't forget that reality and how it is a reality in our everyday lives. God is in us, always acting for the good of teaching us and loving us and bringing us to where our heart desires, and that's union with God.